we're getting closer.
We're
getting
so
closer.
close. Oh, it feels like it's next week Sunday already. Not because there's anything important going on next week Sunday. It just feels like, has it felt like this week has been extra long? Like, not for any particular reason. It's been all things considered, a very simple and straightforward week, but it just feels like it's taken forever.
You know what, though? I hope it's because you have big plans for the holiday weekend and you're going to be doing something fun and you're anticipating that, and that's why the days seem to be dragging on.
Sure, let's say that. Let's say that's the reason.
I'm like Tyler's mom. I'm like, go out, have fun.
She does say that, too. That's accurate.
See?
Very accurate.
Welcome, everyone, to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl, alongside the one, the only Tyler Keith, who is the magic man here at Civic Center TV, and we appreciate everything that he does, not just for the Megacast, but for everything with Civic Center TV in the community. So many people probably don't know this, but Tyler works crazy hours because he is the man behind the machines, making sure all of these public meetings get on air as well. And so it's a great service that we do provide to the community, and we do invite people to really pay attention and listen and watch. So one thing about COVID-19 I think might be the positive thing coming out of this is that virtual seems to be working for a lot of things. And so when it comes to community engagement in our local community, is that you can just log on and you can watch and you can participate. So you no longer have to take the time out of your schedule to go to City Hall, to sit through hours of a meeting. You can watch them virtually and kind of dip in and dip out when you want to and you don't, and have it on in the background. And that's important. And Tyler is responsible for that service. So huge thank you, Tyler. As a Kiko Harbor resident, I say thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.
So, hey, so this is the Oakland County Megacast, and Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, we work to bring you interviews, long interviews, in-depth interviews with newsmakers throughout Oakland County and the state of Michigan as we continue to navigate COVID-19 and this pandemic. You can watch and listen to us on CivicCenterTV.com. Great resources that we have on our website. Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 FM The Biff. I now have 89.3 Lakes FM as one of my favorites in my little smart car.
Very nice. Yeah, I suggest that a lot of people do that.
Exactly. Put it on as your favorite and then switch over. Especially, it's nice to be able to listen to some of the community meetings as we're out driving around. But also, in case you miss some of our interviews, you can catch the rebroadcast on 89.3 or CivicCenterTV.com, or go over to the website and catch things there as well. So, great service.
Yes, a lot. Yeah, we got plenty for you all there on CivicCenterTV.com.
I'm tooting our horn.
Oh, yes. Got it.
Hey, so a lot to get to today. We have a good show for you. A lot of interesting guests that we are going to be talking to. Water Resource Commissioner. We forget about the importance of clean, safe water. And so we'll be talking to the Water Commissioner, as the State Senator Rosemary Bayer is going to be with us. She's the 12th district, which is Kiko Harbor. You can see I don't have my glasses on, so I should probably put those on. Tyler, I went on to the Instagram page of the artist Tyler Voorhees. Amazing work.
Yeah.
He is incredible. So I'm excited to talk to him and also see how he's navigating this. Of course, we have the Arts, Beats, and Eats Festival coming up in Royal Oak this weekend. A modified version, anyway. Also, we will be speaking with Blue Skies Brewery out in Auburn Hills. A good weekend to go out and get a tasty, frosty beverage, adult beverage. The weather's going to be great. Good day for an adult beverage. And Dr. Wanda Cook-Robinson, Oakland Schools Superintendent. We tried to have her on last week or so, and things fell through. She had to change her schedule, so we're excited to talk to her as well. But real quickly, we want to go ahead and get to the headlines for you. So if you head on over to CivicCenterTV.com, go to coronavirus, and we put up the headlines each and every morning before we head into the studio. Really, one of the biggest stories that everyone has been waiting for is this continues to be a waiting game for the announcement of reopening of the still closed businesses. Governor Gretchen Whitmer did not announce any good news yesterday at her press conference for owners of the gyms, theaters, bowling alleys, and ice hockey rinks who are anxious to reopen amid the coronavirus pandemic. And she basically said, you know what, we are going to make that announcement. She's going to be making that announcement very soon. So I'm doing this for the first time, so bear with me here because I do want to bring you, Tyler was nice enough to do a clip from the governor's press conference yesterday, so I want to go ahead and play that for you.
And a lot of people
here.
are feeling anxious. Our students and parents and coaches and small business owners. And I also know Michiganders, me included, love sports. We love to compete. It is in our DNA, and it's a part of what makes this state so special. When it comes to battling COVID-19, we all have to be on the same team. And I want people to understand that we are working around the clock and have been throughout the duration to ensure that every determination is made with the best expertise, the best protocols, following the best science. And that's what we've continued to do, and that's how we will continue to operate. It's what also has contributed to Michigan being in the strong position that we are relative to the rest of the country, and we have to get this right. So we take this very seriously, and the decisions that I will make in the coming days and announce are made in a way that will be protecting athletes and families and coaches and parents and patrons, our small business owners as well. So people's lives are at stake. COVID is still a very real threat all across our state. I will continue to treat it like that. And so for now, I want everyone to know that I will have more to say on this topic very soon. So stay tuned, keep your eye on the ball, and keep working to beat this virus together. And a lot of people are...
You know, and we are all remaining tuned to what she has to say. Tyler, I don't get this. I'm a former public information officer as well as a reporter, and it was leaked out that she was going to be making this announcement. There had, like the Bowling Alley Association, they pulled their lawsuit, and people were expecting an announcement, and she did not make it yesterday, and people thought she was going to. I think what she's going to do is put it out in a press release either today or tomorrow.
Yeah, from a strategic perspective, I don't understand that move either. As she got further into her updates yesterday, usually she's about the first 15 to 25 or so minutes of the press conference. She'll move on to Dr. Caldoun or somebody else. Yesterday it was Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist before Dr. Caldoun, and then we'll come back later on for the press conference. And when she got about 20 minutes, 15 minutes into her initial speech and was not talking about sports or talking about the gyms and the bowling alleys and the theaters reopening, that was the indication, at least for me, that she wasn't going to make that announcement, which rang odd to me also because, like you had said, to have that information leak out earlier on in the week, not address it either at the beginning of that press conference or before that press conference or immediately after the leak to say, wait a minute, this is not entirely the truth. Let's all slow down here. I'm talking about it. We're working through it, but there's nothing official coming down the pike just yet. And then to hold a press conference a couple days later and not discuss it until just before the press Q&A and say no action's being taken, but more information will come in the coming days. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It kind of comes off as it's a situation that can come off as being perceived by those businesses as you gave us all this hope again and once again pulled the rug out from under us. There's already enough animosity toward her office. So from a strategic standpoint, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And I felt like she needed to explain herself, like you said, right off the bat. But the fact that she didn't, you have to remember these businesses, if she is going to announce that decision today or tomorrow in a press release, that's what I think is going to happen. She's going to do it in a press release. We've seen her do that before. She doesn't have to take questions in that regard. Not that the press is really giving her hard questions anyway, because it's via Zoom. So you have to submit your questions prior anyway. But I think what is hard for these businesses, if they are going to be able to be able to open this weekend, they need time to plan that. It's not a light switch that you turn on. And I think that's kind of adding to the frustration.
Yeah, because you want to know when you're going to be able to make that move so that you can put your best foot forward and get that and make that move as quickly as possible, but also as safely as possible, because you want to make sure that if we get this opportunity, if I'm a gym, if I'm a theater, if I'm a bowling alley, whatever the case may be, if I have this opportunity, we've been waiting for it for 6 months, I know I have to get this right. Because if I mess up, if one of my other competitors messes up, another one of my colleagues messes up, this could potentially reverse this decision almost immediately and put us in a spot where our business is in jeopardy. So we want to make sure we're putting our best foot forward, but also getting open as soon as we possibly can, because time is money, and we're out of time, and we're almost, or in this case, have been out of money.
Yeah, so we'll continue to watch that for you here at CivicCenterTV.com. Also making news this morning, college students launch coalition for safe reopening. Students from several Michigan colleges have come together to launch a statewide coalition that demands a safe reopening for college campuses. The Not My Campus statewide coalition consists of students from Albion, Central, Michigan State, Oakland University, as well as U of M, all of its campuses. The group has petitions circulating on each campus with a variety of demands, including online learning options, guaranteed protections for employees, and safe housing for students. So we'll see how that continues to move forward. One of the other big stories that we continue to follow is the court rules in favor of order mandated COVID-19 testing for farm workers. A federal appeals court ruled Wednesday in favor of the state order mandating coronavirus testing for all farm workers in the state of Michigan. The court's decision was cheered by the governor and immigrant advocates who say the order protects farm workers, most of whom are Latino immigrants. The Michigan Farm Bureau, however, that's the group that represents farm owners and supported the lawsuit, claims the state order is causing hardship for farms and immigrant farm workers because the workers don't want to be tested. And one of the things I saw on this as well, Tyler, was there are concerns that some of the crops are going to remain in the field and go unpicked because farm workers are, avoiding the state of Michigan because they don't want to have the COVID-19 testing.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because you want to make sure you're protecting the majority of the farm workers, as the article says, most of which are Latinx immigrants in the local area. But you also want to make sure that you're not putting any harm on the business end of these farm workers who even in normal times have been heavily affected economically in recent years. So it's a balance. You have to, once again, it's another thing you have to balance between the public health and the good of our economy and our business community.
Also on CivicCenterTV.com, we're going to end on a little bit of a good note here. New studies confirm that multiple types of steroids improve survival for severely ill COVID-19 patients. Steroid drugs are inexpensive, widely available, and have been used for decades. They reduce inflammation, which sometimes develops in coronavirus patients as the immune system overreacts to try and fight the infection. In one study, deaths were cut by up to 35%. However, the treatment did not help less sick patients. But we've spoken with some of the doctors and experts here on the Megacast, and they were saying one of the reasons we're seeing a decrease in the number of deaths is they are figuring out different ways to be able to treat COVID-19, and this seems to be working. Also, Tyler, the CDC came out this morning saying that a vaccine could be in the works by November 1st.
Yeah, and that's an interesting story as well. As far as treatments for COVID-19 that help to at least reduce some of the major symptoms, this is another one of those innovations being made by the medical community who's had 6 months and has taken that time to learn as much as they can about this novel virus as time goes on, and as they continue to use some form of trial and error to treat this virus. So anything that's going to work well, they're of course going to use and to put their best foot forward. And in terms of that vaccine, we'll see. I mean, I'll believe. It's one of those situations where I'll believe it when I see it, when the medical community says and affirms that this is a safe vaccine. I mean, we've had reports from around the world of vaccines already being ready in places like Russia. There, you can't really entirely trust that that is the truth. So it's one of those situations where it's good news that it could be here by then, but it's one of those you have to kind of believe it when you see it and the medical community says that it has an affirmative green light.
I think the timing is one of the things
That's
everyone
another
is
thing, too.
questioning as
Yes.
well, right
Thank
before the
you.
election. Hey, we're going to take a super quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to be speaking with Jim Nash. He's the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner. A lot to catch up with him during the pandemic right here. How are they navigating? I believe their offices are still closed, but what are they doing, and how we can continue to get through this all together in one community? You're listening to and watching the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe. And this is the Oakland County Megacast, where each and every day we work to bring you interviews, in-depth interviews with newsmakers throughout Oakland County and the state of Michigan. You know, Tyler, when we turn on the tap, we don't give a lot of consideration to the water that's coming out. For so many of us, it's clean, it's safe. We don't think about it a lot. I went on a trip to Kenya, and one of the things that I will say when I came back from that trip is I had an appreciation for clean, safe drinking water. I am pretty diligent to this day about making sure I don't waste water because we forget about how valuable a resource it is for us here in the United States. We all take it for granted.
And here in the Midwest, too. We are really lucky in the situation that we're in, that we have so much fresh water around us to be able to tap into, and that we have the experts in our area in particular that have created such a safe and reliable system. We know that even in places that are close to us here in the state of Michigan, like Flint, that hasn't always been the case. So having safe, clean water is a luxury, and such a great resource that we're so lucky to have here in our local area.
And as you said, we have so many experts that are making sure that it does stay that way, not just our drinking water, but also our waterways. And one of those experts, Jim Nash, the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner, thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on. This is I'm always trying to educate the public as much as I can.
So go ahead and start with that, because I think a lot of people don't really understand what your department does. It's not just our drinking water.
Oh, certainly not. No, well, actually, that's not the bulk of what I do. We used to be called drain commissioners. In most counties, it's an office with a few people, mostly agricultural drains. In communities that are larger communities, we have a lot of more urban, suburban drains, a lot of things that we take care of in that way. And that's what protects against flooding, against, again, pollution of our surface waters. and eventually even the aquifer if we're not careful. So there's a lot of issues around what we do. I have 370 employees. I have $500 million budget. We operate and maintain for 19 communities, systems in 14 communities, I'm sorry. We maintain large sewer interceptors for 800,000 people. We operate and maintain combined sewer and treatment systems for 200,000 people. We have in every single community in Oakland County, we have operations. So we're everywhere.
So, Commissioner, what's one of the biggest challenges you and your employees face?
Well, right now, all the things around the virus, we're extremely careful. We quit doing shutoffs before the governor ordered it. We've been working with all the communities to make sure that all their services are kept up. My folks are emergency employees, so we're always out in the streets. We go to people's houses. You mentioned our office is closed. 90% of operations go to you. And when you do need to come to us, doing all services, we have pickup boxes if you need to pick up meters and things. That's really the only thing we do at the office in terms of picking things up. Everything we're doing electronically. So if we're not keeping safe, we can't keep you guys safe. So that we have to make sure that all our employees are as healthy as it can be. So we're following all the rules. We're very careful with what we do. There is no virus in any of the drinking water systems. It's not that kind of thing. It doesn't get into drinking water. There is some in sewage, but once you guys flush your toilets, you don't see sewage until it gets to us. So there's lots of diseases in sewage. So we're always very, very careful around that. So this is something that we're also working with universities in Michigan to keep track of the levels of it. So we're actually doing a study. So potentially we can predict outbreaks before they actually start to getting significant through sewage. So there's ways that we can be utilized in this effort too. We work with the health department on that.
Jim Nash with us, Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And Commissioner Nash, you have a new project that's going to be you're going to have the ribbon cutting for it in September in Pontiac. Can you explain to our audience what exactly that project is and what makes it unique to our area?
Certainly. Okay. It's at the Clinton River Water Resource Recovery Facility. It used to be called the Pontiac Wastewater Treatment Plant. When we took over this system back in 2015, it was in very, very bad shape. Very old system. It was built in the 30s initially. And so we've been rehabbing this. And part of that is Pontiac is an economically disadvantaged community. So they would have had a hard time paying for all these improvements. So we changed the system and we brought in 12 communities around Pontiac that now contribute sewage to that. So we're using the facility at its full capacity, which saves those communities money. And they help fix the plant to make it the best it can be. So part of that is a project that we're having a ribbon cutting on the 24th of September. This is a brand new process. The first time in Michigan, the third in the US. It's been used in Europe for a while. And we take the solids out of sewage. We used to just kind of wring some water out of it and either fill them, or some non-crop farmers would take it for fertilizer. But now we'll be using this process that will be able to reduce the volume of the solids by about 75 or 80%. We'll be producing about 4 or 5 times as much methane, which is natural gas, from that as we digest it. So this will allow us to run the entire facility off of the methane that we produce from the sewage we treat. We will no longer be using in any significant way fossil fuels, natural gas that comes out of the ground that's contributing to climate change. So this is a new way of creating energy from the very things we use. And that's why we call it a resource recovery facility. And I'm proud to say that we just won this week an award called Utilities of the Future Today. It's by the Water Environment Federation, the Association of the Association of Water Management Professionals, and several other groups to honor organizations that are really looking to the future, to sustainability, to being able to use our resources rather than just throwing them back into the environment and causing more pollution. So these are the kind of things that my office has been doing for some years now, and we've been quite successful, and we're leading efforts statewide to make this much more a practical alternative for other systems that that deal with sewage.
Commissioner, you're definitely leading the way. Explain how you even find out about the possibility of some of these programs and then taking it from a discussion to implementing it.
Well, again, I have some of the best engineers in the state working for Oakland County. My management team and my engineering staff are always looking for new ideas, and we've been working together on all these things. I actually heard this at a conference that we went to some years ago, that this was something that could be used. And matter of fact, one of my engineers, who's now with the Great Lakes Water Authority, I miss him a lot. We went to Lansing because they had an experimental station at Michigan State using these kind of techniques on a small scale, but we'll be using on a much larger scale. And this is something that will actually also produce grade A fertilizer that people can use on their lawns and their gardens, that we can either give away to the communities that are presenting the sewage, or we can sell it on the market. Washington, D.C. does that.
We're speaking with Jim Nash. He's the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner. Great things that you guys are doing over there. One of the things I don't think the community kind of understands the importance of keeping our waterways safe. Illegal dumping or pollution of the waterways, is that a big issue in Oakland County, or is it getting better as time is going on? Because I know back in the day it was a bigger issue with some of the manufacturing plants polluting the waterways with their runoff.
Well, I'll tell you briefly. Back in the 70s, when they passed the Clean Water Act, the Clean Drinking Water Act, all those things, those went after point source pollution, which you're talking about. Pipes that come out of factories, pipes that come out of wastewater treatment plants, chemical plants, things like that. And those are heavily regulated now. It's really hard to get away with pollution from facilities. That's something that's heavily covered by the state, by the federal government, by Oakland County. And the bigger issue is, as you say, people dumping things in storm drains. That's one of the big issues, is dumping in storm drains. We have a pollution hotline. We have contact my office, 248-858-0958. Go to my website, oakgov.com/water. There's ways to report all these things. We get a lot of reports and we can investigate them, and that's good. The biggest issue that's facing our lakes, rivers, and streams right now is runoff pollution from stormwater. Stormwater is a non-point source solution. Wherever stormwater falls, it's either absorbed in the ground, natural areas, or when it hits pavement and rooftops and parking lots, things like that, then it runs off into the nearest storm drain. When it runs into a storm drain, it's carrying whatever's on that road or roof into the water. Oil, gas, brake dust even has an impact on the environment. These kind of things get up over time, and there's no treatment for this. It goes right into the nearest body of water, nearest stream, lake, river, whatever, without any treatment. So what we're trying to introduce is green infrastructure. Green infrastructure tries to mimic how natural ground absorbs water before it runs off. In nature, about 85-90% of the water is absorbed before it runs off in a heavy storm. So when you have parking lots and roads, that's much worse. So it's bringing all these pollutants. We're helping communities develop these policies. It's called green infrastructure. Hopefully next year, we're going to change one of my positions and make it a green infrastructure coordinator for communities, so we can help them develop these policies. People put, rain barrels in their downspouts and rain gardens outside. I have these kind of things at my house, so we can collect that water before it hits the sewage. The stormwater system. So the more we can do that, the more we're protecting our lakes, rivers, and streams. People who live directly on water, that's called riparian landowners, who live directly on water. If you have grass growing right up to your yard, to the water, and fertilize that, every time it rains, the fertilizer is getting into your lake. And if that happens, that's why we have beach closings, because of algae and bacteria feed on the fertilizers, and they create significant problems of pollution. So we're trying to educate riparian landowners too on how to do that, and to make sure that they're not damaging their own lake they live on.
I always learn something on this show. You've been a wealth of knowledge. Quickly, I saw on the website that the Kids Clean Water Calendar Contest. Talk about that, and where does that stand, and what do you guys hope to do with that contest every year?
Well, that's part of our education program. My office, along with Pure Oakland Water, that's a nonprofit that I work with to get all these things in front of the public. We do a bunch of different things. We do scholarships, we do internships at local watershed councils, and we do education for 4th and 5th graders all across the county. They're called watershed festivals. We do one at Oakland University in the spring. It's a one-day event where we have like 1,200 kids come, and then we do a 4-day event at Cranbrook, where about 1,800 kids come over 4 days. And these are all 3rd and 4th graders. They learn all about the environment, all about protecting their water. It's a really great event. The kids are so enthusiastic. They absolutely love it. Part of that process and part of what we do through that is the kids calendar contest. Go to my website again, oakgov.com/water, and look for it on or search for it, kids calendar, and your kids can apply for it. If they win, there's 12 winners and a grand prize winner. And if they win, they get a year of, at the one at Cranbrook, they get a year at the membership at Cranbrook. They get a bunch of little swag and interesting stuff, and they get all kinds of good stuff to take home. And they get their calendar printed. 5,000 calendars are printed, and they're almost always all given out. So people are very, very popular. They love them, and the kids are so talented. And they're all learning about the environment while they're doing it. So I think it's one of my favorite things. I love to all the events with the kids because they learn so much and they're so enthusiastic.
Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner Jim Nash with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Commissioner Nash, you talk about education for kids, and before that you talked about steps that people can take at their home to protect the local environment and to support the water systems and make them more effective and efficient. Things like catch barrels for drain water and all of that, and that takes a certain amount of education to do it effectively and to do it safely for the environment around. So for people that do want to take those steps and do want to contribute in any way that they can, where can they get more information from your team or from the county about how to do that safely?
Well, you can go to my website. It's again oakgov.com/water. Search for whatever interests you. Green infrastructure, I have a bunch of stuff on it. The one I talked about for riparian landowners, it's called Waterfront Wisdom. Just Google Waterfront Wisdom on that. Again, this area you're in has a ton of lakes, so there's a lot of people who live on lakes. And it's a booklet, about a 12-page booklet that explains why it's important, how you can do these things. It's really actually not very expensive to do, and in the long run, it's really beneficial for everybody who lives on a lake or river or stream to make sure that they're not going to have those beach closings. I fish a lot, and I go on these lakes, and I see every year I go, there's a few more people that have done these green infrastructure things, and it warms my heart. And that's why I want to have this coordinator position, so all the communities can push this stuff out. The Michigan State Extension Service has a program called the Master Gardener Program. We're going to be working with them to make this part of their curricula so we can teach people how to plant these native species that have to be part of that green infrastructure because they absorb water much better. So all these things I'm working in the next couple of years, we'll be going to all your communities. You'll be hearing this from us, from your communities, hopefully from your kids in school. So going forward, we want to make sure that everybody always understands this and that we're all working in that same direction.
Jim Nash with us, the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner. Thank you so much. And you know what? You and your team are doing amazing things here for our community. So thank you. And I'm guessing because you are a water commissioner, those green plants behind you are not fake. They're probably real, huh?
They're not fake.
Well, they look great. They look great. So you guys are doing great things over there. We appreciate your time, and say hello and give our congratulations to your team as well for your recent award and all the efforts that you're making and doing to try to keep our community green, environmentally safe, and sustainable for the future.
Well, I thank you. And the county is well served by the people who work for it. I can tell you that. Thank you so much for having me.
Jim Nash with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Tyler, I have been meaning to get a rain barrel. After hearing him, I'm doing it this weekend. Yeah,
it's a great idea. It's a great way to help relieve the stormwater system a little bit, and it's water that you can use around your garden, that you can use around your yard, that helps reduce the amount of fresh water that you're taking in through your water systems at home. So it's a great resource, and there's so much good information from resources around Oakland County and southeastern Michigan, the state of Michigan, to learn more about how to do that effectively and safely for the local environment.
Plus, it saves money on your water bill.
Exactly. If nothing else, do it for that reason.
So I know our next guest is ready. Do we want to go straight to her, or do you want to take a quick break?
We can go straight to her.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
So
fun.
we're on a roll here on the Oakland County Megacast. We're going to switch gears just a little bit, though, and bring in State Senator Rosemary Bayer. She is with Michigan's 12th district, my district, included in that, Kegel Harbor. Thank you so much for being with us here on the Oakland County Megacast.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me again.
So are you ready for the holiday weekend? Do you have big plans? What are you going to be doing?
Planning is different these days. A lot of times the things that we would have done, parades are one of my favorite things. No parades this year, but we'll be outside. We'll be working in the yard. We'll be appreciating having an extra day off.
An extra day off is always good. I know it's going to be a different Labor Day. If we could just go ahead, I'm going to dive in deep here because I know that you're a part of the preparedness task force for the nursing homes, and they came out this week with the recommendations. Can you fill us in on what it was like to be a part of this task force and some of the decisions that were made or the recommendations, and what's the next step?
It was phenomenal. Honestly, it was one of the best experiences that I've had working with a team, and especially in this role. The people that were on the task force, it was an incredible amount of experience and expertise in this space. It just felt fantastic to be a part of it. And when we started off, there was an outline that was provided to us. Here's kind of the things we think you all should be working on, and send us back these 4 categories. And this was our first introduction to each other. And we really had only 5 weeks in this first meeting. And it more and more people started saying, I joined this because of trying to improve the quality of life of people in nursing homes. And so many people said that became a major focus. It wasn't even on the original list, but it became a major focus. And you can see that it's almost half of the recommendations came out of the quality of life work group, which was the one that I got to work on. So yeah, it was just phenomenal. I was really, really happy with the work and the outcome.
Senator Rosemary Bayer with us. She is from Michigan's 12th district, with us on the Oakland County Megacast all throughout the local area. You're also very much involved in education issues in the state of Michigan, and recently there's been a new online education bill that's currently working its way through the state. Could you take us through some details on what that bill pertains to?
Sure. Hi, Kyle. Yes, we have had a lot of different education bills that have been entered into the system over the last month or two, and the set that just passed out of the Senate and the House I did not vote yes on those bills. And we have a tendency in our state government right now to, everybody cares a lot about this topic. I'll start with that. I mean, there's a strong value in our state government to really put a focus on education, doing the right thing for the kids, as well as the teachers and the whole system. But we also, because of that, there's a lot of people that believe in too much oversight, too many controls and too much oversight, in my opinion. So for this year, given that we are we're in a special place, right? We have lost 6 months, which is way more than we've had to deal with in the past, starting with that, not having the resources that we need to meet all the safety guidelines, to have everyone come back to school, not having the experience using the online tools. I mean, there are so many barriers to having a successful start and a school year that's like the years in the past. And so having things like standardized testing, the first set of bills that I was a part of, we eliminated standardized testing for this year because it doesn't even make sense. I mean, nobody is where they would expect to be right now. And this is something that takes a lot of time and a lot of stress for teachers and students and families. We don't need that right now. We need to make things easier for kids so they feel comfortable going back to school in probably a completely different way. It's almost certainly in a completely different way. Even if you're going back in person, you're going to be 6 feet apart, you're going to be wearing masks, all these other controls. So some of those things, standardized testing, the A to F grades for schools don't make sense this year. The third grade reading doesn't make sense for this year. The teacher evaluation based on standard tests, I mean, all those things. And then they even added yet another kind of test. So too much extra load when we should focus on how do we help teachers and students. And part of it was the special ed piece too, which was not adequately taken care of in there either. Work to be done, work underway.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's one area that's not being addressed at all. The students that are part of the special education programs, because we have regular kids that are struggling with remote learning and trying to get through this pandemic. What is the impact on our students that do require additional needs? What's that looking like? Can you tell us where the talks are on that?
Thanks, Ronnie, for that question, because this is really close to me. We are still really trying to work on how to do this. We don't have enough resources. So I'm frustrated that we didn't have better coverage for it in the first, the current set of bills. But part of that is we just flat out don't have the resourcing that we need. And there's a huge shortage of certified people to work in this space. So we had a big meeting Monday this week with special education directors from school districts all over the state. It was really a big group of people, and it was a great view for us in the legislature on the challenges that they're facing right now. And they're all focused on individualized programming for special needs kids. I mean, they recognize that this is, most of them are not going to do well in the online environment, many of them, I should say. So given that we know this, that is the focus for them. The challenge is, how do we find enough resources to be able to do what we know we need to do to really take care of them? So that's kind of the work that's going on. Part of it is a lot of advocating, certainly on my part and on others in the government, to get the federal government to step up a little bit more here, and especially in this area. There's some pretty severe requirements from the federal government in the IDEAS Act on what has to happen. And not that those are particularly bad in any way, but there's requirements for things that have to be done. And the agreement, in the beginning, when that was proposed, the federal government was going to pay 40% of those costs. And instead, we actually get about 14%. And so we have to make that up here. The state doesn't really have enough money to make it up either. The schools end up using general fund dollars to help offset some of that, which steals from everybody else. I mean, it's a complicated financial environment that we have to also figure out. So these are big, hard questions, but we're putting a big focus on it, and we aren't going to let go. There are some bulldogs here, and we're not going to let go of this until we come up with some better answers. It's not good enough to say we just can't. The best we can do, those kind of words, not good enough.
And I know that you and your fellow lawmakers have been working around the clock to try to navigate the pandemic, because there are so many issues on so many different topics. But if I'm a parent and I have a special needs child and it's the first week in September, what you're saying, you mean well, but I'm still living my day to day. So what are you trying to get across to your constituents? What do you want them to know?
I want them to know that we are on their side. So we get a lot of calls from parents, and it's my job, right? My job is about supporting the people that live in my district. Ronnie, I support you. You can call me anytime. And so, when parents call because they're worried about their kids' education, that's my top priority. And so I'm, pushing hard and putting a little bit of stress on the system in Lansing, because we have to take care of all those kids. And that is what we're trying to build out. There isn't a simple answer. I will say I'm on 5 different budgets. That's most of my work legislatively, the committees that I'm on, I should say. outside of my primary priority, which is whatever the people in the district need. The committees I'm on are mostly budget committees. And so we are focused on how can we do everything we can to move money into the school budgets. I mean, it really is. We were relieved to see the expectations for budget this year are far better than we thought they were last May. So because revenue in sales tax is much higher than we expected, the budget just as planned out right now, the numbers are very similar to last year, slightly higher maybe than last year. So that's good. That isn't good enough in the time of the pandemic for education, because we know how many more things are needed. And this is one of the primary examples, the extra cost for special needs. So we're trying to do some things. I've been working a lot on how to get networks to everyone, how to get every student access to a network in an emergency way this fall. And that's underway. Part of that is hotspots on buses. Well, buses travel to houses. People could travel on buses, right? Teachers, special aid helpers, aides can travel on buses. So there's other ways to start to try to help that system for individuals within each district as they work on those individual plans. So we're trying to do everything we can to find every additional piece of support for those parents, for those students. And we'll just keep at it until we get enough in there.
State Senator Rosemary Bayer with us. She's from Michigan's 12th district on the Oakland County Megacast. Senator Bayer, we're also coming up on a really critical election in November, and after the primaries, we had a record number of absentee votes submitted to our local clerks. We're expecting that to double for the general election. We recently spoke with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, who predicted about 5 million people will be voting in this upcoming election, and many of those are going to be by absentee voting. A concern for many clerks is that they aren't able to begin the process of preparing those absentee votes to be tallied until the day of the election, not necessarily counting those votes before the election day, but preparing them to be counted because they need legislative approval. Has there been any discussion in Lansing about providing our local clerks with some of this relief so that they can ensure that their process for counting votes in November is done as swiftly as possible and reducing the chance that, as Jocelyn Benson had said, election day becomes more so election week?
Yeah, there is a lot of conversation. There's been a good set of bills introduced specifically to help with that. The things that can be done without actually looking at the vote, right? So we can do a lot of the individual pieces of opening things and piling things, and to build the structure to make it go faster on election day. And in fact, mostly they have been introduced by Ruth Johnson, who was the former Secretary of State. She also is a Republican and a good partner for us in many ways. I will say that the Republican leadership is not in favor of this happening, and they're stopping it. And I typically try not to say things like that. I'm not, I'm a believer in working together and doing all that. But this circumstance, everything having to do with helping to make sure votes count, that's like the bedrock of our democracy, right? If you don't feel confident that your vote is going to count, that it's going to get there in time and that it's going to count, then we're screwing up in a big way. And if we have things sitting right in front of us that will make this better, and I know the Secretary of State is doing a ton, right? Extra boxes, extra people, all the other things that we can do to support election day, but simple things that we can do in the legislature, call your senator, call your House rep and tell them we want those bills to pass. We want to make it easier for the clerks in every village, township, city to be able to move faster on election day and get every vote counted.
State Senator Rosemary Bayer with us here on the Oakland County Megacast, Michigan's 12th district, which does include Sylvan Lake, Kego Harbor, and points north of us as well. I love your background and your passion for women and encouraging females to get into the STEM industry. Explain how you even got involved in that, and then what words of advice do you give to the younger generation right now?
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I spent years working, I built an organization that works with girls in technology and helping them to understand that this is a really cool place to be. It's not just for boys. For me, I stumbled into it in looking for some kind of, I'm an engineer by birth, I think, trying to find the thing that I love to do. And my first computer class, I never left the computer room after that. And they finally hired me. It was sort of that much of a falling in love because it's so creative and it's so interesting every day. You get to invent something new. And I don't think that everyone knows that. So, over the years, first of all, the basic idea of try things until you find the thing you love is the most compelling advice that I can give to any student at any age, right? If you didn't find it yet, just keep looking, because once you do, it won't be work anymore. It's just something you love to do. And I was so lucky to find that while I was still young. And with the girls, it really is not a geeky thing. I mean, there is so much creativity. There's computers and technology in every kind of field now. You can be in working with animals and use computer stuff. So it's everywhere. Whatever it is that you love, there's technology behind it, and you could be the one to do that.
And how, if I'm a parent and I have a daughter or even a son, I mean, we want everyone to go into this arena because this is our future. It really is our future. And I think the one thing that's different from when we grew up to the younger generation now is they are growing up with technology. And they're so much smarter. Every time I have a problem, I'm like, I need a 12-year-old. I need a 10-year-old, to help you out because they catch on to things so much faster and so much quicker. Where do you see the STEM industry going, and how do you think having more women in that industry will help change and shape the future of it?
Oh, gosh, yeah. Well, so what's interesting is the movement from, this pure technology focus to what, when you have diversity in any kind of work, you get different viewpoints and different backgrounds and different places where we care. And we first had our computer camps for girls, and it was fascinating when we were having the sections on how to build computer games. They would come out of this camp with a computer game they built. The games were getting in a car and going and doing social things. The use of computers was very different than the things that at that time were traditionally what computers were used for. We had robotics, for example. In the first year, it was a very standard boys robotics program where they had a battle at the end of the week, the BattleBot thing. The second year, we decided to get a little more creative, and we had a parade. And you would not have believed the capabilities of those robots and how they looked and how they interacted with people, just because they were free to do this in a way that made sense to them. And they added the people part. So ethics in technology, we're still barely scratching the surface on how to really do things ethically, how to use technology ethically, right? Because we're going to have robots that do all kinds of stuff. We're going to have androids that look like people. We're going to have, so if we don't have the right approach, it could get scary for us. So, there's a huge opportunity in every kind of thing that you care about doing. Bring that to this, because technology will apply to it, and we need your other perspectives.
Yeah, I'm a little bit afraid, but excited as well when we talk about AI and artificial intelligence and how it's going to lead and change our future. We're already even seeing it in COVID-19 with some of the college campuses, how they're having trackers on some of the students that are helping take their heart rate and trying to figure out whether or not they may be sick in a couple days. And it's fascinating, but it's also can be scary at the same time.
Well, we fear losing our own privacy, right? And, I had this thought earlier that we were going to end up with, you do a prick in the morning, you get, a yes or no, are you safe to go out? And then every doorway you pass through, a little scanner reads you as you go by. It says, yep, safe, 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 safe. Oop, there's a red one, stop, bell goes off. we are not, all that technology is actually something we could do today, to be honest. We could actually do that today. But the ethics, the privacy issues, those are going to be the really interesting things that this younger generation gets to figure out for us, because just because it's possible does not mean it's a good idea, right? How do we do that? We're using AI right now. We've been working on how to manage AI in the insurance business, the health insurance business, because there are times often where insurance companies will make decisions on whether something's approved or not with an artificial intelligence tool. So how do we set boundaries on that? If people are getting denied health medical procedures based on a computer program, is that good?
It's never an easy answer, right? Just a couple more minutes here with you. But before we go, I'd like to get your take on the announcement from the CDC coming out today that states should anticipate a vaccine for COVID-19 on November 1st. Your thoughts on that?
Okay, are we back to the election then? Right?
Right. Yeah, the timing, I think we all can read between the lines and get the politics involved in that, right?
I know. So the fear, just like so many other things that have been announced in that way coming from the federal government, they generally don't have any science behind them. They're just announcements, things that really are not good medicine or that have never had the studies done or any indication that we will be ready with a vaccine from any science anywhere by then, and then just to make an announcement out of it's nonsense, and it's clearly politically motivated. And it's sad that we have that. I mean, we're talking about public health here. How can we politicize this so very much? It just feels really wrong to me.
Senator Rosemary Bayer with us on the Oakland County Megacast. There's my microphone. Just another couple minutes with you before we let you go today, Senator. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, or any other information that would be important for our audience or your constituents to know that we haven't spoken on today?
Well, the one thing I want to make sure that I get a chance to mention is about voting. So because we had more than 6,000 people whose vote did not count in the primary because the ballot was late getting there. So we want, because of the pandemic, of course, we want people to vote at home, but it's really important that you do it early, right? And that you either carry your ballot to the ever increasing number of drop boxes, right? It's getting easier and easier to put your ballot in a local drop box, or mail it before October 10th. I mean, get it done. If you haven't applied for your absentee ballot, do that right now. As soon as it comes, vote. It's not going to change by sitting there on the counter. So get your voting done. Put it in the mail or drop it in the box and make sure your vote counts.
That is a good word to leave you with on today. We appreciate so much you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us on all things related COVID-19 and the good work that you are doing. And thank you for your effort on the nursing homes. That is just not an easy topic to try to address, and I'm sure you heard some really heartbreaking stories throughout.
I have one. My mother. That's how I got involved.
Oh, and is she still in the nursing home now, or?
She is. She's going to live there, the rest of her life, and so we've been feeling all the frustrations. So I hear about it from our constituents, and I live it myself every day. So it was really important to me, and I was really happy to be able to be part of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for what you do for our community, and I'm wishing you and your mother stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope that she is doing okay in the nursing home that she is. Hey, we're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to be speaking with a fascinating artist. His work is amazing, Tyler. So we'll introduce you to Tyler Voorhees after this break on the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet Wear facial coverings when you leave your home and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Wear a mask.
The ball's in your court, Michigan.
This is the Oakland County Megacast on CivicCenterTV.com, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 FM The Biff. My glasses, I need to clean them. Sorry. You can also catch us if you do have cable on Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. Right now, the artist world and all those creative ones that we rely on to make our world so much better, boy, they've been hit especially hard with COVID-19. The art fairs have been canceled. A lot of them rely on those venues to be able to share their work with so many people, yet they continue to create and make our world better. We want to now bring in Tyler Voorhees. He's an artist, and you have the most interesting and incredible art. Share with our viewers and our listeners your genre and how you came up with it.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. So I'm a painter primarily, and I love history, and so a lot of my work revolves around history. But I also love, as far as a style of art, I love surreal art, and I love specifically really long-limbed figures for some reason, and that's a whole nother conversation about why I like that. But anyway, what I do is I combine history with these long-limbed characters. And I create this series. I've created this series called "The Jobs of Yesteryear." I found this topic, the history of the worker, really fascinating, and I started digging into it. And just these stories were coming alive to me and speaking to me. So I've been depicting jobs from the past and workers of the past for about 5 years now, and I'm about 130, almost 140 paintings into it. And I'm just still so fascinated and still just deeply enthralled with all of the stories and the imagery that I find once I dig into it. So that's my main shtick right now.
Keeping history alive through your artwork, it is fascinating. Some of your paintings and some of your work, I've been following you on Instagram, but I think the other fascinating part to your story is actually you and your family and your dedication to being able to share your artwork and walking away from the rat race we call life to make this happen. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'll try to abbreviate the story a bit, but my wife and I, we were living in Colorado, and we had our first son, and as many new parents discover, life gets really busy once you have a kid, and we were just feeling the strain of working our tails off. I was a teacher, my wife was a graphic designer, and we're just working our butts off, just trying to afford daycare, and felt like we barely saw our son, and just fitting these little moments in between and living for the weekend. And I love teaching, but it was a very demanding schedule. At the same time, we'd been keeping the art going on the side. It was just kind of my hobby and something I enjoyed doing. And it just so happens that my wife is also just a brilliant business mind. And so her and I came up with this plan to take a leap of faith, kind of a now or never moment, and quit our jobs. We put our belongings in storage, and we took our little 2-year-old on the road with a little camper and all my art in the back of our little SUV. And we traveled the country doing art festivals for the first 9 months, and we didn't have a home, and it was awesome. We had a little camper, and we just saw the country and just fell in love with the whole art festival scene. And so that was about 5 years ago, and we've since found more permanent residents here in Michigan after falling in love with this state. And so we've been here for 3 years now, and we just, the mission continues to be the same, to spread joy and to honor workers through my art, and and we just love traveling too. So the art festival world allows that most years.
A leap of faith that has been an education in its own. With everything that's going on with COVID-19, how are you surviving? Because so many of the art fairs have been canceled.
Yeah, it's been a year of adaptation, and we've really enjoyed being home, to be honest. It's been so nice to be in Southwest Michigan during the summer. Usually it's a very busy time for us, and this year we had time just to kick back and plant a garden and to go to the beach a bunch more than we usually do. But yeah, as far as the making ends meet, unemployment, to be honest, helped a lot when they opened that up to self-employed and independent contractors. So that was a lifeline that was vital for us. And then we've just had to find new ways to generate some income. Everything from renting our house out, and my wife has a couple of side gigs, and we just had to get scrappy. But we knew that we'd be taken care of, and we knew that that things would fall into place the way they were supposed to. So we haven't really stressed that much. But my heart goes out to others that are in worse spots than we are. But we've been able to adapt fruitfully, thank goodness.
Artist Tyler Voorhees with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Tyler, earlier on you mentioned that a lot of your art has historic ties to it. How is what we're going through in 2020 and COVID-19 during this pandemic, how is that going to influence your art in the near and distant future?
Yeah, so I'm definitely an artist who reacts to what's around me, as I think most artists do. And so initially, we look around and we saw all these industries, almost every industry being affected, most of them in a negative way, and workers, individual workers just really being upended, their whole routine, their lives. And yeah, we just started feeling for them and got this idea to reach out to our followers and to our network and just ask people how they're doing. How's your job going? What's changed? How do you feel about it? And kind of gather these stories. And the response was overwhelming. We had probably close to 100 responses, and I took those stories, usually in my free time, like at night, and I would just sit with those stories and create a painting that depicted their story in some way, usually depicted their job. And then I would share that story along with the image on social media and share their story. And then I would send the painting to the person that lent me their story. And so it was just a little way that I could kind of bring some light into this really dark time for a lot of people. And it was really a way for me to kind of cope and stay in touch with people that I really care about, and kind of keep my finger on how people were feeling about it. So that was just, that really changed me. In particular, the health workers that wrote me and told me about their experience was just really powerful. So that was one part of how it affected my work. And then my wife and I, also being home, decided to jump into this big project we've had on our docket for a while. And it revolves around this one character that I've done in my series called the Lamplighter. And so lamplighters were the people, the workers who went around and lit the street lamps at night to illuminate the streets and kind of bring light into the darkness and keep the streets safe. And the Lamplighter has been one of my favorite characters out of this series, and it's really become more symbolic for who I want to be in this world. I want to be a harbinger of light and for people and for those around me. And so we took this idea, this lamplighter, and we've started building this giant sculpture of a lamplighter using all these old tools that we found and remnants of the workers of the past. And so we're assembling these tools and I'm welding them together, which is a new skill I've been learning. And we're building this giant lamplighter sculpture that we are hoping to debut in the next 6 months or so.
Tyler, one thing I appreciate about your social media sites is you do put video and you share who you are as a person. How important has social media been for you as an artist to try to get your work out there? Because there are so many people and so many artists trying to do the same thing.
So in the 5 years leading up to this year, we've amassed a nice collection of people that follow us, and we've met them at art festivals typically and connected with them in person, and we'll see them every year we go to that festival. And so we've got a pretty dedicated following, and so this year has been a year to really lean on that a bit and use that as my means to connect with my followers and patrons versus going to the art festivals and connecting with them that way. So yeah, that's been the basically only means of selling work has been social media. And as you've seen, I love making videos. I usually don't have time to do it because I'm just getting paintings done for the festivals and going to the festivals. But being at home and having more time, I've had time to make these videos and use that as my venue to sell the work and to teach people about the painting that I'm releasing. And that's been really fruitful, actually. It's been working. So, yeah.
Tyler Voorhees with us, an artist on the Oakland County Megacast, joining us today. Tyler, you're one of those few artists that will be featured at Arts Beats and Eats this year. What can people expect to see from you there, and how is this festival experience going to be different from you from an artist's perspective than others in the past?
Well, the sheer numbers, both of artists and patrons, is the biggest difference, along with, everybody there wearing masks. That's always a little bizarre to me still. But instead of, a couple of hundred artists, there will be 20 or so. And patrons can show up and they can, there's a $5 entry fee, and that gets you 75 minutes of time in the festival. And to keep the social distance measures in place, there'll be one group or one person in each booth at a time. There'll be spots to kind of wait to get into the booth. So just a much kind of more calm in a way. It's not these massive crowds of people you're kind of squeezing through. It's much more intimate. And I did one last month, and it was actually really enjoyable because I felt like we had more time to connect, more time to talk. But there's a lot fewer artists to take in, but it's still enjoyable time. So it's 9 to 6, 9 to 4 at the Royal Oak Farmers Market parking lot. And yeah, you can just show up and sign up for a time, or you can sign up beforehand on their website.
So you said you're one of 20 artists. Do you know how you got picked over other people?
Well, with any festival, you apply, and send in your work, and they review that and invite people. I was just fortunate that they chose me, and I do think that there are many artists who aren't interested in doing shows right now that either think it won't be worthwhile or they're concerned about safety. And, I respect those decisions. But for me, I'm just really excited to get out there and see people again. I'm such a social person, and I do miss the community of artists and the community of patrons and just being out there talking about the art. So I'm really excited, and I think that came through in my application. So luckily I was chosen.
That's awesome. I will say, I think we all feel the same way, especially when you love people. You love meeting people and those organic moments where you just connect, and it leads to, conversations that you wouldn't have with someone else. And I will say, looking at your work, you do mainly focus on the worker. However, after George Floyd's death, you did a very powerful piece of artwork that you auctioned off. What made you take on that topic, and how was it received from the public?
You know, it was just a moment to band together and to kind of all do what we could. And it was a balance between not making it about me in any way and more about making it about him and his family and the cause of police reform. And so I just thought, I can't do nothing, you know, there. And I had this image coming to my mind of a protester with their hands up and with the mask on. And so I painted it, and I really liked it and thought, you know, I could maybe do some good with this. And then in addition to that, I painted a small portrait of George Floyd and auctioned them off to benefit his GoFundMe page for his funeral and that goes to his family. So yeah, I was just really, I just wanted to do something. I think like most people, you just feel helpless and you don't know what to do. And so for me, it was just as much as my own therapy to just work through it in some way. And you know, it didn't heal it all, but I'm still working through that, but it helped. So,
is someone that has no artistic talent whatsoever. I come from a family of 9, and all my brothers and sisters were the babies. I have a twin sister. All my brothers and sisters above us got all the talent, either musical talent or artistic talent. So I'm always so envious. Can you walk us through the process in which you go through, especially because you do love history? So do you study the part of history that you want to reflect in your artwork, or do you just put pen to paper and see what comes out?
No, it's really the former technique there. I do a lot of research, and I really enjoy the research. You know, So I'll start, I have a big list in my studio here of all these jobs that I've kind of got my eye on, and those will come from talking with people or reading or just thinking about current industries and tracing them back to their roots. And I'll look at this list when it's time to paint and just see what grabs me as far as the topic. And then it all starts with research. I read what I can find, I look at imagery, and through that information and those images, you know, the painting starts to kind of formulate in my mind, and that's when I go to the sketchbook and start really rough sketching it out, little tiny sketches that just give me the general composition. And I don't spend too much time on that, because once I find a composition I like, then it's time to get to the wood panel and start working on it, start seeing it come to life. But like anything, and I love talking to kids about this, like it just takes practice, and it's really, you know, I look back at my first painting in this series and I see like, wow, look how far I've come in the 100+ paintings I've done. And, you know, I'm not done. It's all about putting the time into it and really finding something you enjoy that you spend some time with, and you'll just get better by putting the time in.
We all need to grow in all of our professions. You know what, Tyler? You are such a cool guy. I love your story. And thank you for being with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Quickly, though, tell people where they can find you at Arts, Beats, and Eats, and also follow you. Which social media do you have? I found you on Instagram.
Yeah, that's probably where I post the most. It's Tyler Voorhees Art, 2 O's, 2 E's, and Voorhees, and TylerVoorheesArt.com and Tyler Voorhees Art on Facebook, all that good stuff. Yeah, but stop on by Arts, Beats, and Eats. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great weekend, and I look forward to being a part of it. And thanks for having me on the Megacast.
You are always welcome back on the Megacast, and good luck to you and your family as well. It's such a cool story, a story about faith, passion, and following your life goals. And anyone, just if you're on the fence about, we've all been in the rat race and you wonder, can you walk away from that security, this, that, and the other, but go on to his Instagram, or he has a website as well. Follow his story, and then if you are out at Arts, Beats, and Eats, stop by, check out his artwork. It's very interesting artwork. So we appreciate Tyler for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, Tyler, we're talking beer, baby. Beer. We all need a little beer. You're watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The conversations we have during the breaks.
Oh, yes.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keith as we work Monday through Friday to bring you the latest newsmakers sharing all their information as we continue to navigate COVID-19. It has impacted every single business, every industry, every facet of our life, and that includes the beer industry. You know, Michigan has really emerged as a craft beer mecca, and it has turned into $1 million industry here in the state of Michigan. However, everything else, brakes have been put on as we continue to navigate COVID-19. But now that restaurants and bars and businesses are being allowed to reopen, that includes some of our favorite watering holes. And with that, we want to go ahead and bring in Courtney Casey. She's a managing partner of the Blue. My glasses are stuck.
Blue Skies Brewery. Right
there you go.
there.
They're stuck in
I
my
got
hair.
you.
I'm sorry. I need glasses. Courtney, that's when you get old, is when you start needing glasses. It's the worst thing. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on today.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. For those that may not have been to your establishment, tell us about Blue Skies Brewery.
Absolutely. So we actually, we seem to have the worst timing ever, my husband and I, with all the businesses that we're affiliated with, but always it somehow works out. So we actually opened in downtown Auburn Hills during quarantine as curbside service only. So that was kind of an interesting start to being open. We were hoping to open late last year, but we had some construction delays. So opened in May in downtown Auburn Hills on Auburn Road near North Squirrel. And then, when the lockdown was lifted, we were able to finally open our indoor space and now we also have outdoor seating. So we're actually a satellite tap room for Blue Skies Brewery, our parent location, which is located in Onstead, Michigan, near Brooklyn, Michigan. And most of our beers are brewed there. We are doing some small batch stuff eventually here in Auburn Hills. But we're basically a satellite tap room featuring the beers from Blue Skies.
I will say I love the story behind your name. Do you want to go ahead and share that?
Sure, yeah. So my husband Shannon and I are the managing partners. We've been working for years with Lorenzo Lizarralde. He's the owner of the parent company, Blue Skies, and he's also the owner of Chateau Aeronautique Winery. And my husband and I own Michigan by the Bottle tasting rooms with 3 locations in Metro Detroit. And we started working with Lorenzo through his wine business because we feature Michigan wineries at our tasting rooms. And after a while, he decided that he wanted to expand into beer. And how he got the name for both of his places, Chateau Aeronautique is the French word for aeronautical. And he is a pilot for a major commercial airline, and he loves flying, obviously. And that's how he fell in love with wine, from flying all over the world. And that's also how he fell in love with beer. So when he was looking to open the brewery, he was looking for a name that would also kind of capture that whole airline aesthetic and really represent, the kind of conditions that the pilots are hoping for when they go out to fly. So that's where Blue Skies came from.
We're speaking with Courtney Casey, managing partner at Blue Skies Brewery out of Auburn Hills on the Oakland County Megacast. So your brewery, like many other businesses in the restaurant and bars industry, was heavily impacted, of course, by the COVID-19 pandemic. How specifically did the events, at least early on in the pandemic and throughout the course of this pandemic, impact your business, and how have you been able to navigate that to continue to survive through what you've gone through this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who owns a small business right now can really relate to, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, things were changing so quickly that we would come up with one plan, especially, for our wine tasting business as well, which was open at that point. Blue Skies was still pending opening, and we would come up with a plan, and then the next day something would change. And I mean, I think that's just what you get when you're living through an unprecedented historical event. But it's like, okay, that plan's not going to work. We're going to go to the next plan. For Blue Skies specifically, it was difficult because we were really nearing the end of construction after a really long construction process with a lot of challenges, which seems to happen every time construction is involved. So we were really looking forward to getting open right around that time when the lockdown happened. And so we kind of had to go back to the drawing board. The city of Auburn Hills has been super, super supportive and welcoming, and they have done all they can to try and make sure that we are successful. But once the lockdown happened, they were not allowed to send out building officials to, finalize our certificate of occupancy and that sort of thing. So we are basically in a holding pattern in terms of letting people inside. But then when we got to May 7th, when construction resumed, the day that construction resumed, the city of Auburn Hills was out to complete our inspections. And so we got our certificate of occupancy that day that construction resumed. So we were really thankful for their support. And so then we were able to do curbside at least. So even though we weren't able to let people inside, we could do that. And we were really overwhelmed by the support of the community from people who were, all we had at that point were growlers at first, and then we got howlers. So people had never even tried this beer, a lot of them, unless they'd been out to our parent location, and they were still coming and ordering like 1, 2, 3 curbside howlers, growlers to take home without ever having tasted the beer. So, I mean, that was really amazing. We had people, as soon as we posted on Facebook that we were open, they were calling in for curbside orders. So that was awesome. And then when we finally could open to the public, it was a challenge just trying to get the seating all spaced out properly, and, not all of our bar seating is in use and that sort of thing. We've definitely been taking all the proper precautions, but we did find really quite soon in the process that there were a lot of people that weren't comfortable sitting inside yet, which we totally understand. So the city of Auburn Hills worked with us under some of the new regulations for licensing outdoor seating to quickly put some sidewalk seating in basically on the city property. And so that really, really has helped us out. And our patio has a lot of people on it every day, all spaced out, of course. But there's a lot of people who still are nervous about coming inside, and I completely understand that. So I think the impact of outdoor seating has been really huge. Also, just making sure that we communicate to our guests that we're doing everything safely. We are obviously masked as employees. We ask the customers to be masked until they sit down. And we've been doing things like tableside karaoke where people don't get up and the mic is wiped down. For our trivia, we do Sporkle trivia. They're doing everything online in terms of submitting answers, so people don't have to get up and walk around. So we're just trying to find new ways to do things safely and trying to communicate to the public that it is a safe space and that we're doing everything we can to keep them safe, while still giving them a place to come out and find new beers and meet new friends and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the beer industry, the craft beer industry has exploded in the state of Michigan. As a new business that's opening in the middle of COVID-19, how do you market yourself to the general public to say, hey, come give us a try?
It's been a challenge. I do all the marketing for both Michigan by the Bottle tasting rooms and then also for Blue Skies Auburn Hills. And I kind of, I think when I'm marketing, I try to think about if I were marketing to myself and I was marketing to the people I know and to the customers that I think that would enjoy our business, like what would I want to see and what would I want to hear to make me feel comfortable and to make me feel interested in, like you said, there's so many beer places. And I think that people who are into craft beer are always looking for a new place to try. And then I also think that the people in downtown Auburn Hills have been waiting for a long time to have a brewery. So I think that has really helped us out a lot where people knew we were coming. I actually started our social media so early on in the process that people were actually getting kind of annoyed with us because it was taking us so long to get open because of the construction delay. So I almost wondered if I pulled the triggers too soon because it was like last April of 2019 that I started posting that we were coming. And so I think the people in downtown Auburn Hills were really like, okay, come on, let's go. But I think that just letting people know what we're doing safely and letting them know what we're doing differently in terms of what kind of beers we have. And also we're adding food slowly. It's taken us longer than we wanted just because of the impacts of Corona and having a smaller staff. I think a lot of people don't realize that even once places reopened, not all the staff came back, which I understand. For a lot of people working a service industry job, this is sometimes the second job. And for them, either they're nervous about being out in public or they just are nervous about people pushing back on them.
So we're having a little bit of delay in Courtney's Zoom call, which is happening to everyone during coronavirus. I always wonder what this is like for students as well, Tyler, as we continue to, we're going to see if we can get her back here quickly. Oh, what a hard time, though, for them right now to be opening in the midst of the pandemic. Any new business, I mean, we had established businesses that at least had a branding and they had a following that were able to reach out to their base of their customers to let them know what they were going through and to continue to support them. However, if you're a brand new business, that can be very difficult. And so we have been speaking with Courtney Casey. She's the managing partner of Blue Skies Brewery, which opened during the pandemic in Auburn Hills. We seem to have lost her signal.
Yeah,
so
it looks like we have lost her. She is reconnecting, so we can wait just another minute for her, and hopefully we'll have her back as soon as possible. But we have lost connection with her on today's program.
Hey, it's live television, everyone, and this is happening with Zoom interviews across the country, not just here on Civic Center TV. I know that it is also happening with businesses as well as schools that are using Zoom as well. So, but we want to say Blue Skies Brewery, it's located in Auburn Hills, and they were just opening during the midst of this pandemic. I'm looking at their website, and they do have a lot of fun events that are coming up. Live trivia. I'm not very good at that, though, I have to tell you, unless I can Google the answers. They have tableside karaoke. Karaoke is very much a popular event, and a lot of people were excited to bring karaoke back, and they are doing it tableside. And we have Courtney back. So, Courtney, thank you for being patient with us. And do you want to pick up where you left off?
Yeah, I apologize. I feel like that's kind of like wrapping up 2020 for us, that the technological difficulties. But yeah, we were just talking about marketing. I do think that the people in Auburn Hills were really ready for something like this. And actually, my husband and I, when we opened our Michigan by the Bottle tasting room down here in Auburn Hills in 2016, we had no idea where downtown Auburn Hills even was. We lived in Macomb County. My husband's from the UP, and I'm from Sterling Heights. And Sean Keenan from the city of Auburn Hills says, I have this perfect location for you. Let me show you downtown Auburn Hills. And we're like, where's that? So he showed us the location where he thought would be great for Michigan by the Bottle, and we fell in love right away. And so when Lorenzo, our partner, was looking for a place to do this satellite tap room, we were like, you got to go to downtown Auburn Hills, because the city was so business friendly, so supportive of everything we wanted to do, and really, really wants to build up this downtown. So Lorenzo's like, all right, sounds good. So they're actually located, Blue Skies is right next to Michigan by the Bottle. And we loved it so much that my husband and I actually sold our house of 14 years and actually in the middle of quarantine moved to downtown Auburn Hills because we loved it so much.
So you are definitely a poster child for the city of Auburn Hills, and I'm sure they will appreciate that. Tell us what's coming up. And I will say, while it's been great and these cities are working with so many of the businesses in the summertime for businesses to be able to expand out into the parking lots, what's going to happen when winter comes? Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned. I'm concerned about another lockdown, just not knowing what's going to happen. And I'm concerned in general about, we've really been blessed with a wonderful summer. I mean, circumstances aside from Corona, in terms of weather, the summer has been awesome. Probably the best summer of my life in terms of weather. So I feel really lucky that we've had that and we've been able to capitalize on that. But I can feel fall coming and I'm getting a little nervous. We did purchase some heaters. And so we're going to be putting those outside as it gets cooler so that people can still enjoy the outside. But as winter comes, I think we'll just have to keep taking it as it comes and, hope for the best. I know because we are on a sidewalk permit, we do have to take down our fences by a certain date in November so the city can clear the sidewalks. So we will not be able to have outdoor seating, even if it's a mild winter, past that date. So we'll have to see how it goes, but I do feel like people are getting more and more comfortable with going out, and especially knowing as the word gets out that we're trying to do everything properly and following all the regulations, and people start really feeling more comfortable. I do think it will get better, but it's going to be an interesting winter for sure. It's not going to be normal. We've been doing so many events over the years at our wine tasting rooms, and I run all the events, and so it's been very strange to not be able to try and get as many people into our business as possible. But so we've been trying to shift to some smaller events and just more limited seating events, and that's been working out really well. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to be doing a beer dinner coming up at Blue Skies with pairings, and that's just going to be really limited seating. And we are going to be expanding our regular food menu as well. And we're going to be doing some stuff for, with the sporting events coming up, trying to get people in for that. So we'll just keep evolving as the situation requires. I mean, I think that's what small business owners are used to doing anyway, just not really in this environment. No one is used to this, obviously, but we just all know that you have to adapt or you will fail. So we're just all trying to adapt.
And hopefully come out stronger. So I have to say, every time I have to go buy like a bottle of wine, used to put me in a frenzy. I'd be so stressed out having to buy a bottle of wine to take to a party. But now I'm even more stressed out when I have to buy beer. I mean, the beer section is bigger than the wine section. What tips do you have for people?
I think if you find a place that really you can get to know the people that are there, whether it's a brewery, whether it's a store, both on the wine and beer side, I think that helps out a lot. And I'm not knocking big stores at all, but I think if you find some smaller stores where you really get to know the staff and they become kind of your friends or, full-on friends. I know some of our staff actually hang out with their customers outside of business hours. I think they get to know your tastes and you feel more comfortable asking questions, because I know a lot of times when it comes to wine and beer, there's so many people that are so passionate about it that if you're just getting into it, you kind of feel really awkward asking questions. But there are no stupid questions when it comes to craft beverages. So I would say find people that you trust and that you can get to know, who can get to know your tastes, and then they can recommend things to you. Especially if you're going to a store, every few weeks, they can tell you what's new. They can tell you, this might align with what your preferences are based on what you bought before. And that's a really good way to build a relationship with someone who's going to get you stuff that you like, so you're not going to waste your money, but also maybe push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone to try some new things that maybe they think are new and interesting and that they think you'll like.
Hey, Courtney, quickly before we let you go, I know that Michigan by the Bottle, the tasting room, I'm on your website, and you were doing events of yoga with wine. Is that going to continue? And what about beer and wine?
Yeah, we're definitely.
Or beer and yoga. Beer and yoga.
Beer and yoga, yeah. We are doing some outside yoga events at Riverside Park, which is right around the corner from both Blue Skies, Auburn Hills, and Michigan by the Bottle, Auburn Hills. And I'm kind of sad it took me all summer to think about doing that, because we used to do the yoga at our Shelby store, which is our smallest store, and we can't do that there right now because of the capacity issues. So I'm like, hey, why don't we just go to the park, and then we can walk around the corner and go get wine. And so, yeah, we might definitely do that with beer. The only thing now we're running into is that early sunset. So that might put us on a little bit of a time clock here. But if things are still like this next year, as soon as it gets warm again, we're going to be hitting that outdoor stuff again. So people can definitely keep an eye out for that. And yeah, that's all on our website. I try to update that every day with all of our upcoming events too.
Courtney Casey with us, the managing partner of Blue Skies Brewery in Auburn Hills. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on the Megacast, and go check them out. And then if you're not a beer person, if you're a wine person, go see them next door as well. And I think we should just do beer, wine, and yoga. How's that?
That sounds like I think a lot of people need that right now. Sounds like a great idea to me.
Exactly. We all do. We need to relax. Thank you so much, Courtney. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. And then when we come back, the Oakland Schools Superintendent, it is a stressful week for parents and teachers, and as well as for the superintendents. They've been working around the clock to try to get the schools back open. So we'll check in with them and see how things are going. You're watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Caldoon. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
This is the Oakland County Megacast on CivicCenterTV.com, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and on 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 FM The BIP. And we would also like to say thank you to the West Bloomfield Parks Department for streaming us on their Facebook page today. We do appreciate it. They are doing amazing work over there at the parks, keeping the parks clean and providing so many services as so many people continue to navigate COVID-19. We're spending so much more time outside. So thank you to them over there at the Parks Department for allowing us to stream the Megacast on their Facebook page. We're going to end the show right now. Let's bring in Dr. Wanda Cook-Robinson, Oakland Schools Superintendent. You've had no summer vacation, I would imagine, right?
Correct.
How are you surviving?
Well, I'll tell you, when I see the hard work that our superintendents are doing, and they have been working tirelessly, it really just keeps me going. I'm really very proud of what we're doing here in Oakland County Schools.
Tell us a little bit about Oakland County Schools and the work that you're doing and who you service as well.
Well, Oakland Schools, as you know, is one of 56 intermediate school districts in the state. And we provide leadership in all aspects of education for our 28 local districts and our 22 public service academies. So all of what we call them the LEAs, our local districts, we help them do their return to school plans. We help them with professional development. And we have a consultant at the ISD, as we call ourselves Oakland Schools, the ISD, to help them in all areas of schooling. So as you can imagine, it has been tense over the last several days as schools have started, and we have been there to help them. And that help can be anything from providing professional development to connecting them with the health department, to getting data, whatever the schools need to provide a quality education for the children who attend school in Oakland County.
So give us an update. How, oh my gosh, I just can't even imagine what all of you have been through. But the first week, I will say, according to my Facebook friends, there's been some snafus. Some people haven't been able to log on, and there have been issues with this, that, and the other, which is expected. Everyone is navigating this. This is new chartered territory for all of us. So how has the first week been, and how have you addressed some of the issues that have come up?
Well, believe it or not, the first week has really started better than we expected. We were very, very worried about connectivity. In Oakland County, we still have some areas in the county, particularly in the south end of Oakland, that are not connected. And we are working closely with Oakland Schools, and the county government are working closely to see how can we make that connection so that every student, regardless of their zip code in Oakland County, will have connectivity and access. And we are still working with that. We have been very, very pleased with the help that we've received from United Way and the Skillman Foundation in helping us to provide Chromebooks for students. We still have some needs in some of our districts, and as you know, as you can imagine, everyone in the country ordering Chromebooks and laptop computers, we still have a few on back order. Our first and primary thing that is on our mind is safety. We want to provide a safe environment for students to learn. That is why the majority of the districts in Oakland County started the school year virtually. And during this time, we are still working in our buildings, in our school districts, to see how we can lower risk as we attempt to bring students back face to face. We have partnered with the Oakland County Health Department, and we have an initiative where we are placing a nurse, a minimum of one, in some districts 2 to 3, a nurse in every single school district. So they are working with those districts now to look at their protocols, to look at their social distancing, and to look at their whole environment in terms of being able to bring students back face to face. And that is our ultimate goal. We want to bring the students back face to face for their instruction, but we want to do it in a low risk, safe environment. So that's something that they're working on, as well as trying to deliver a quality education in a virtual format. This is new for us. We have a little practice because we've been doing it since March. And teachers have spent the summer being trained in how to deliver instruction that's motivating and energizing in a virtual format. So we've had some hitches in some districts where the login, I had to learn the login for my grandson so that I can go in and help do some assignments and help my son and my daughter-in-law, because parents are getting a little overwhelmed too. You know, they are still working and they are assisting in this virtual format. So we've been doing some of that, and we've been looking at how we can help parents and resources and support for them as well.
Dr. Wanda Cook-Robinson, Oakland Schools Superintendent, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Dr. Cook-Robinson, earlier on you mentioned that Oakland Schools is still working with many school districts, with some school districts in Oakland County in terms of connectivity for students so that they can run these virtual classes as effectively as possible and make sure that everybody has the connection that they need to be able to learn under this format. Well, while that's still in process, and in the meantime, while your organization and these other these local school districts are working on curbing that issue, what is being done for those students that do not have the capability to be connected properly to engage in this virtual learning?
We are identifying sites, and we're working with the Oakland County government on this as well. For example, in one of our districts, we're looking at the library. The library is a place where students can come in the car, they can be in the cars, and they can use their Wi-Fi. Also, we've been looking, superintendents have been searching their community for Wi-Fi that is close to home. As you know, there are a number of businesses that offer Wi-Fi. And how do we connect there? So all of these efforts are underway to see if there are community elements that can help us with that connectivity. But it is not a situation where, oh, they're not connected, we don't know what we're going to do. We are working to get them connected and to find a way, even if we have to take hotspots to their home to do that.
Hey, I know there's been a lot of frustration. I think I just saw in Royal Oak, Imagine Theater had offered up their location, but then they had to shut it down for the school students because of code issues, code violations, and they're working through that. So people are trying to work together, trying to be creative, to try to come up with solutions. There's so much frustration because some parents say, you've had 6 months to try to get this right and to try to come up with these answers, but it's changing every day. What do you want the parents to know who are frustrated out there? Because I know you guys have been working around the clock.
Yes, and we understand that frustration. The one thing that you have to remember is that one size does not fit all. Particularly in Oakland, you know, we have rural, urban, and suburban districts. And the characteristics in each community are different. So, you know, in the last 6 months, I could have come up with one model, but it would not have worked for every single district. So we've had to take more time to work case by case, district by district. Each superintendent is working closely with their teachers union, and their community and their boards to figure out what's best in this community. And so that's why you'll hear parents, some parents will say, oh, it's going fine for us, and some are saying, oh, we've had a little bit of struggle. As you know, in our rural areas, the connectivity has been an issue. In most of the Oakland County, we've been able to solve that with very few pockets left. And we understand that parents have jobs and that their children at home and having to support education on that end has been a load. We understand that, and we've tried very hard as we've trained and worked with teachers to deliver instruction where the parent input is minimal. But in some cases, for some of our students, they need a little more, and so we need parents to give a little more. With our special education students, for example, many of the staff have continued to do one-on-one support with those students. They're looking at now, even in a virtual environment, how to bring those students to a site so that they can receive services. So if it were as easy as turning on a switch, I would have done it from the ISD, and I would do it. However, it is almost a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, so much you all are dealing with. You know, as we continue to go on through this pandemic and we're trying to figure out solutions to learning, my heart goes out and I think about the kids where home is not their safe space. School was their escape. School is where they thrived. And if they are stuck in those environments where it's not safe for them, is there any thought and consideration as to what's being done to try to address the kids that need to be someplace other than their home to learn?
Yes, and we're working closely with social agencies as well as many of our local districts have social workers and support staff. And what they are doing, they are reaching out to those homes, to those families. As you know, food insecurity also is another issue. We are having the buses go into the subdivisions to still deliver food and lunches so that students have that. And we're reaching out to those homes and doing home checks. And how are students doing it? And how can we help you? That is occurring across all of our districts. And again, working with social agencies, we are partnering with them. I don't know if you and our viewers are aware, but at the ISD, we have a team called Wraparound. The Wraparound team at Oakland Schools is comprised of social work staff, and their job is to do just that. They work with the local districts to cover the Oakland County community to go out and to make sure that there's support in the homes. We also have a consultant, for example, that works with students who are economically disadvantaged. We have a consultant that works with students who are English language learners. We have a consultant that works with students who are immigrant to this Oakland County environment. So though I have a team at Oakland Schools that works with the schools to do just that, to reach out. Food insecurity and student safety is a priority for us.
So many good programs. I wasn't aware of that. And I think a lot of it has to do is we need the parents and the students to be sure that it's okay to reach out for help and let people know that they need help because those resources are available to them. Yes. I will say, I know that your organization works on training teachers and superintendents on leadership. I think you guys all have earned an A in leadership, and you need special certificates for navigating COVID-19.
Yes, it has been different. But you know what? This pandemic has brought us challenges, but it also brings with it opportunities. And I think what we have now in the field of education, I'm going to tell you, I'm an old-time educator. I've been in over 30 years. And I think this is a time when we can look at those changes that we need to implement to improve how we educate students, how we can uplift the quality of education, and how we can increase student achievement. And I think we have an opportunity here. And that's what I'm hearing from my colleagues. You know, the virtual, the remote, and all of that. How can we use all of this to enhance the quality of education moving forward? And it's not all or nothing. You know, it may be both, or it may be all. So these are the questions that we are pondering as we're moving forward. And we're looking to see, what have we learned from this pandemic? And how can we use those elements that we learned to make education better?
Dr. Wanda Cook-Robinson with us, Oakland Schools Superintendent. Just another minute or so with you today before we let you go. Is there anything else that would be important for our local parents, students, and teachers to know from your organization, or anything else you'd like to speak about today?
Yes, for parents, I want them to know that we are working closely with the health department and state government to look at the safest way to bring students back to school face-to-face. Our goal is to get students in that environment as soon as it is safe for them to do. In addition, for support for parents, our state organization, MASA, which is the School Administrators Association, is partnering with Channel 56, and we're going to develop a channel, a learning channel for parents to be able to utilize to help support their students. And for all of our parents out there, if you have a student that needs help or support, you need support working with them, call your local district or go on their website. All of our local districts in Oakland County have put resources on their websites to help. And if you don't find it there, then go to the Oakland Schools website or feel free to call me. And my staff and I will do whatever we can to help and support through this pandemic.
Dr. Wanda Cook-Robinson, Oakland Schools Superintendent, we appreciate your time and all the help that you and your team are doing to get our kids back into the classroom. That's going to wrap it up for us here on Civic Center TV and the Oakland County Megacast. Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good day.